Story 1. Because it is more like an old-school bulletin board than social media. More interesting information and fewer people with main character syndrome. Story 2. Better than Instagram. I have a scrolling urge, so I prefer to spend it here. Also, you can find serious answers to serious questions. People put effort into collectively solving problems for strangers. It is nice. Story 3. Because it is very funny, the communities are virtually infinite. Story 4. Because people here tend to be generally more intelligent and coherent than on platforms like Instagram. Story 5. It makes me laugh and occasionally I learn something new. Story 6. I like reading. It's the best website to simply doom scroll and read. Story 7. Because they are often the first result in Google searches, but block anything not safe for work, including violent video game discussions, or bombard me with advertisements. Their mobile site is specifically designed to make you download their app because then you need an account and they can start collecting data on you, or as I call it, spying. Story 8. In order to validate an otherwise empty life or to stay informed about what I find interesting, I have not yet decided which one is more appropriate. Story 9. To have communities of similar interests that would be difficult to find without the internet. And cute, silly animal videos. Story 10. Because I am addicted to social media, believe it or not. Story 11. To keep up with the knowledge of the players who enjoy the games I like. Story 12. To show people my art and because I am bored at work. Story 13. Self-improvement, only to find out that I lied to myself. Story 14. Obtaining global information and experience is valuable. It is always exciting to talk to people who share the same interests. Story 15. For answers to specific questions asked by many people, refer to articles that directly address the topics. For advice, read the news, explore interesting websites, and help others in communities that are relevant to you. Story 16. Quite honestly, just watch some animated images of girls without clothes. I will never say the names on purpose so nobody can develop the same addiction as me. Story 17. Because I love this place and most of the Reddit users except for that one, this one, and sometimes the other one. Story 18. The upvote system generally ensures that good or popular ideas gain traction and allows you to discuss the news with random people. It has declined in the last 5 years but still retains this advantage better than other platforms. Story 19. I feel lost. There is no way I can come back once I get myself together. Story 20. So I can argue, and also pornography, animation, news, discussions, memes, cars, and motorcycles make my day. Story 21. My mom monitors all applications on my phone using parental monitoring applications. I have Reddit on an old Chromebook. I use it to talk to people, learn new things, discuss hobbies, talk about movies, read about sports, answer questions, and watch entertaining videos. As a teenager, I also visit not safe for work subreddits when the mood arises. Story 22. The majority of my time is spent typing long and difficult essays in response to inquiries to improve my English vocabulary to some extent. Some of it is for adult content. Story 23. For the intelligent, unbiased, and supportive community who refrain from negativity and divisiveness to make arguments. And not safe for work content. Story 24. Because I do not want to doom scroll on Twitter. I cannot stand what it has become. Story 25. It's a nice place to share my work. I am a game, application, and web developer. Mostly games and applications. I also watch memes and like to see what others are working on, as well as news about technologies and science. Or random interesting stuff. Story 26. Just out of sheer boredom. Scrolling through nothing interesting all day. Story 27. I have never used Reddit. Reddit and I have a relationship based on enthusiasm, mutual respect, and boundaries. It is a loving and consensual relationship, and we make it work no matter what you may have heard. Story 28. To keep up with news about the games I play, I have done much more than that though. Story 29. Got nothing else going on. Might as well check my phone. I've checked all my stuff and still have nothing to do. Oh look, the Reddit application. Story 30. I can be who I want to be, say what I want to say, and feel better about going back outside in the real world with my skin mask. Oh, and I learned things too. Story 31. When I joined, I missed the old message boards I used as a kid, where I could talk about things the kids I knew were not interested in. Nowadays, I have too much downtime at work and need to make sad or smartass comments to someone other than my coworkers. Story 32. Connection with like-minded people and to get ideas and opinions on things. I don't show my real self in public often, but on Reddit, I can be honest. Story 33. I like to find melodramatic posters with a victim complex to argue with. I eat healthy and exercise but cannot lose weight. Yes, you can. You just do not actually eat healthy and exercise. Sorry, but drinking a diet soda and walking 1,000 steps a day does not make you healthy. Story 34. Because it is easy to pick up and put down at a moment's notice. I am a stay-at-home mom, so I would like something entertaining to do during my downtime, but a child could need attention at any minute. Anything that requires actual focus, such as hobbies, reading, or even just watching a television show, is more difficult for me to stop quickly. With Reddit, I can scroll for a bit while my kids are engaged in their own play and then turn it off when they want or need my attention again. Story 35. At first, what drew me to Reddit was the funny Photoshop pictures people created for fun. But over time, I realized I could find so much information on Reddit about anything. Cars, celebrity gossip, interesting facts about my favorite TV shows, literally anything. I enjoy reading people's questions and confessions and occasionally giving input when people ask for advice. Story 36. Venting about my issues, boredom, finding friends, memes, and helping. Story 37. Validation from strangers. Fighting ignorance, boredom, depression. Sometimes I learn things. Story 38. To look at what is going on at the box office and Reddit story shorts, which inspire me to come to this subreddit. Story 39. I don't know. I am feeling depressed. I am searching for the feeling of love I once felt before, during times of despair, which have come again after I lost it. There is no one I feel I can hug. Story 40. I just use it to see what foolish arguments are going viral. Story 41. I have found several great subreddits that allow for discussion, not just people repeating the same posts repeatedly. Story 42. Honestly, I don't go on this site much at all. But when I do, it's usually just to state something cool or funny, something that means something to me. However, I don't really like it here that much anyway. With the amount of auto-moderation, echo chambers, and genuine insensitivity, it makes this rare activity stray away from normalcy. Think this website needs to go through some changes and revoke some of its power from the people. It's almost like this site is a communist realm of hate and stupidity, full of people who just can't accept that others have different opinions. But the rare times it stays up, it's pretty decent, like a calm after the storm, not the calm before the storm. Story 43. I have been trying to remember how I came across Reddit. Other than those icons you see when you read something on the internet. I think it was a CGP Grey YouTube video that explained what it was. Whenever I saw that icon along with Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, and others, it always appeared in search results like Wikipedia. I still prefer the old Reddit version because it is easier to navigate through discussion threads. The new version is designed for clicks and advertisement revenue, just like everything else now. Story 44. To write about things at 2 a.m. that nobody in my close circle of friends or family would ever care to discuss. That Mr. Beast guy has not only the worst and most forced smile I have ever seen on someone, especially a celebrity. I am going to argue it may be linked to psychopathy and having no idea what an actual emotion feels like, at least enough to mirror or replicate it in a way that is believable. I just saw a picture of him pop up on Twitter, and he is annoying. Story 45. Reddit Marshall memes is the reason I still have an account on Reddit. Story 46. You make me laugh. There is nothing better in a day than a good laugh. Story 47. I use it because it is a reliable source for asking and answering questions about any topic. Story 48. There is a slightly higher incidence of advanced cognitive processes here than in the others. Story 49. Because it is the only social media platform that does not require sound, other than Pinterest, I can use it in public. Story 50. I used Instagram, but it is mostly people taking videos, advertising products I will not use or buy, and everyone competing over who has the most followers. TikTok is toxic and not for me. I had an account but gave up after 3 videos because it was annoying to post every day and create videos. Reddit allows you to state opinions and engage in discussions with questions or scenarios. Although there are some photos, it seems more relaxed. Story 51. I came here 12 years ago looking for advice, animals, and rage comics, and I never left. Story 52. Talking to people here helps with loneliness, and I do not have to use my real name. Story 53. Mostly for shows, books, and video games. I also like reading other people's drama that has no bearing on my life. Story 54. Because I tried Facebook years ago around 2009 and never liked it. I think Twitter is a mess and I do not like the owner. The Reddit community has always been great to me, and I have met so many nice people and received great book recommendations, bands, games, and more. Story 55. Downtime entertainment while working or watching YouTube or sports. Story 56. To talk about guitar and bass equipment, until I realized that people who spend all day talking about music equipment are some of the least informed individuals who believe in pseudoscience. Now I use it to make fun of those people. Story 57. At first, I was looking for advice. Now I am a little addicted. Story 58. You can find like-minded people very easily, also known as getting inside a content bubble. Story 59. To see how people I politically disagree with engage with each other on their platform. Turns out you are just as bad as my side and I love it. Story 60. Facebook is how I stay in touch with family and old friends I barely see. Twitter, now called X, is a cesspool, so I do not have it and have not for about 8 years. I am just not interested in Instagram. Reddit is for the subreddits on topics I am interested in, such as cars, running, and games I enjoy playing. Story 61. Escapism sometimes. Other times it is so I can find something interesting or funny to talk to my husband about. And boredom. Story 62. Sometimes to answer my silly questions, sometimes to answer my legitimate questions. Mostly entertainment and connection. Kind of to keep up on information about things I like such as aliens, music, and cats. Story 63. Because I cannot find any other applications for banter and memes besides this and Kick. Story 64. I think there are many intelligent people here to learn from, far more than any other part of the internet. Story 65. Games, technology, medical reviews, music, instrument substitutes. Also, to see how crazy world news is sometimes. I swear 99% of the people there are bots or have absolutely zero conscience when it comes to the death of innocent people. It is always more death will solve this death problem of ours. Story 66. 10 years ago, I found that many of my "how do I do X" questions were being answered accurately on Reddit. From there, I progressed from Googling "how do I do X Reddit" to creating an account to participate. Reddit was a better platform for discussion and information than Twitter or Tumblr for me, as it still shows me what I want to see and makes it easy to avoid irrelevant content. In contrast, Twitter's algorithm seems designed to frustrate me above all else. Story 67. Discuss in fandoms, but only in decent or small-sized ones. I usually stay away from very large fandoms and prefer to read posts rather than interact in them. Story 68. To get my mind off being in a bad relationship and to get some free advice on how to be a better communicator in relationships. I have been single for a week now, so I know to use it because it is the only social media I enjoy scrolling through. Story 69. For the same reason, I read a journal occasionally. Story 70. Because I find information here that I cannot find anywhere else. Story 71. I first used Reddit because I couldn't remember the name of an anime movie I watched years ago. I think that was a different account since I can't find the post anymore. Later, I returned to Reddit because I used to comment on YouTube videos quite a bit but wanted to engage with or read better discussions. I also got annoyed at YouTube comments being removed and the thumbs down option disappearing. Now, I mainly use Reddit to follow music artists so I know when tickets go on sale for concerts, helping me get out of the house and away from the computer. Story 72. Memes and the possibility of becoming the inventor of the meme of the year. Story 73. To take a break from the endless scrolling of short videos, at least here I read a little. Story 74. Where else am I going to see stuff like this? Story 75. Someone deleted my favorite social media site, and this is the most suitable alternative. Story 76. Because I get really bored at work, but honestly, I dislike Reddit. The type of person who uses Reddit is often annoying, myself included. It is also surprising how much they have changed this site with the new Reddit design and how it does not work well on a mobile browser. If I cannot use it in a browser, I will not use it at all. Therefore, I do not use it on my phone anymore. Story 77. Because my thoughts on Facebook get me banned, on here I get a 50-50 chance. Story 78. To study people and to test and refine my own ideas expressed in various tones and levels of recalcitrance within this subset of the overall population. You are all being analyzed as subjects in my mental lab, and even if you are not directly engaging me as an experiment commenter, you are still in my control group. Story 79. Honestly, I don't know anyone who plays Dragon City, so I just go on Reddit to show my achievements since I know everyone else doesn't care. Story 80. To make a friend anonymously. I do not have friends, so I thought, why not? Story 81. Because Reddit is the last bastion of free thought on the internet and a place where intellectually oriented individuals can resist fascism in a safe environment. We are the key to defeating Donald Trump. Story 82. This is essentially what the world is. Understanding what the world is like is true knowledge. Story 83. Mostly to connect with followers of Moonies and the Madoka Magica fandom, with a little connection to Ranma and Inuyasha as well. Story 84. Endless nonsense and none of it is real. It is the internet. Story 85. I trade in my points to pay my rent, so it is useful. Story 86. Watch Meet the Spy. Fast forward to 1 minute and 24 seconds in the video, and you will get your answer. Story 87. In the subreddits I participate in and enjoy, people seem a lot more relaxed and attentive compared to similar groups or pages on Facebook or Twitter. I see less spam, advertisements and reposts, and fewer unintelligent comments, except in subreddits dedicated to such content. The information appears fresher and more open. You can come across some truly depraved content if you know where to look and are not careful about which subreddits and links you click. Additionally, Reddit feels a little more private. If someone wanted, they could probably figure out who I am on this account, but I am not really trying to hide. On my alternate account, it is difficult to guess anything about me, as I mostly just observe there. Story 88. Because I like to hear real people's views on any topic instead of unreliable websites. Story 89. I initially used it for my job at a startup media company because they wanted us to promote their content by any means. But then I left and discovered it is a good resource for memes, samples, drum kits, and other things I use as a music producer. Story 90. Mostly to annoy people. I just cannot help myself. It is so easy. Story 91. I like seeing posts about my hobbies. Also, adding Reddit at the end of my Google searches has solved many problems. Story 92. Entertainment, education, and as a senior citizen, to help keep my mental faculties sharp with lively conversation. Story 93. I love the anonymity of it, and it honestly makes me feel cool. Story 94. Pretty much all good forums have disappeared. There are not many options left. Story 95. This is a quote I read a while back and thought it was great. Facebook says, "Look at me." Reddit says, "Look at this." Story 96. For two of my hobbies that my friends are not interested in, video games and ancient history. Story 97. Because I enjoy spending most of my free time engaging with people who have similar interests, problems, and hobbies. Story 98. Okay, done with that nonsense for now. Is Reddit still on my phone? Got a minute before I have to do anything else or wipe. Story 99. Because my wife does not approve, I use it mainly for my hobbies and occasionally to view images of women without clothing. I also enjoy browsing social media and sharing humorous posts. Story 100. Porn searches initially brought me here, Then I realized the almost endless possibilities. Local adult content posts, even though I don't respond to them, I keep hoping I'll see someone I know. Dad jokes. Connecting with people in my generation, in my hobbies, in my interests. Joined some of the large groups to see what the community is feeling. See which comments get the most votes. Curvy women, oh my God, the curvy women. Thank you all for your openness. There are things here you cannot find anywhere else in the world. Story 101. I have no idea, but it can be fun and frustrating, like all the attractive people posting in the subreddit asking if they are ugly, knowing full well they are gorgeous and sad. Story 102. I like how I can take any product and type Reddit product XXXX any good and get actual recommendations and reviews. Also, home improvement do-it-yourself advice, movie and television news, book reviews, funny and jokes, and any article for anything I am interested in are here. It may sound cliché, but I love Reddit. Story 103. To see others' experiences, questions, and views instead of reading articles because I prefer real people's insights. Story 104. I had a baby and discovered new parent pages. It helped to know I was not the only one emotionally struggling at the time. Story 105. Because I can see things I am genuinely interested in here. It does not work well on other social media, and lately it is even better at searching for information than Google. Story 106. The only social media platform where you do not have to worry about being canceled for saying the wrong thing, and no one is trying to show off that their lives are better than yours. It feels more honest within the community than most other social media platforms. Story 107. Instagram was making me depressed, and posting on Off My Chest and other subreddits makes me feel good about myself. Story 108. The people here seem to have a better sense of humor than other platforms. Story 109. I have found like-minded individuals here on subjects I always thought I was alone in. Story 110. The topics on the subreddits are very interesting, and I generally love to read the posts and opinions of other people. My favorite subreddits are usually the ones that relate to gaming or PC hardware. Reddit is my most viewed webpage besides YouTube and movie sites. It generally makes me very happy when I get positive reputation on Reddit since I have no friends in real life and rarely anyone to talk to. Story 111. I am addicted to being silly, and I want to be entertained by random funny people. Story 112. As a distraction from the horrors of chronic illness and pain. Story 113. Because reading the answers to questions and input suggestions mostly makes me laugh out loud, truly laugh. Story 114. I joined it just to check it out, but turned it into my #1 home for overclocking sharing when I went into the overclocking subreddit. The moderators banned me, so now I am just randomly browsing the AskReddit and Marvel posts. Story 115. It is another type of social media platform for me to share content. Story 116 because my husband does, and it looked interesting. Also, I enjoy being able to write things out. I'm home alone all day, so it's nice to have some form of conversation. Story 117. I have always been a forum type of person, and Reddit has that structure. Besides that, I am here for news, things I like, cool stuff, and sports. I use Instagram the same way. I do not care about views or likes. Story 118. I like that there are questions that make you think and reflect, as well as how much you can learn and see different perspectives. Story 119. It used to be a fun platform and I became addicted to it. Now it is awful, but the addiction is hard to break. It provides little value except for some very niche subreddits, which I can find as needed with a simple internet search. Story 120. It's a mix of Twitter and TikTok, but without the trolling and hostility. I have never seen anyone toxic. My feed only recommends quality content. Simply incredible. Story 121. I like asking creative and thought-provoking questions to random people on the internet and seeing their replies. Story 122. I like to see how different people think, especially those in a different demographic than me. Story 123. Because 90% of the people I associate with are chemistry students, and everyone hates when I talk to them about it. Story 124. There is a subreddit for literally anything, and it features some of the wildest content ever. Where else would you find something called r/dragons fucking cars or r/breadstepletitries? It really is a melting pot of everything imaginable, and I love it for that. Story 125, because it is better than TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, and other social media platforms. Story 126. Websites are mostly filled with SEO ads and garbage. I ask a simple question and have to search through paragraphs of worthless information to find the answer, so they keep me on their site longer for more advertising revenue. Whenever I search for a question on Google, it is often followed by Reddit. I am tired of these worthless articles. Story 127. To read people's jaw-dropping stories, that is literally it. Story 128. To read the things that people say and to pass the time. Story 129. More interesting content here, to be honest, and the different communities. Story 130. It's the last bastion of internet forums. I have never liked chat rooms such as Discord. Posting sites like Twitter and Instagram are very difficult to build a good community on. Facebook can burn in fire for all I care. Story 131. I just saw a movie and wanted to discuss the ending on the movie's subreddit. I want to watch footage of flooding in the Florida or crazy video subreddits. Checking out the made me cry or sad posting subreddits can hit the spot sometimes. Story 132. Reddit is full of entertaining content. Whether it is memes, funny stories, or interesting discussions, there is always something to enjoy. Story 133. My second favorite place to post. Also, I sometimes use it as a hypoallergenic soap in the shower. Story 134. There are multiple reasons. Sometimes I come across great ideas here and genuinely find scrolling through comments entertaining. I do not like using other social media in public, and sometimes I look at Reddit while riding the bus or in a waiting room. Sometimes I just feel like talking to strangers and engaging in discussions like this. Story 135. I have been here since June 2009. I cannot remember what brought me here. I was Googling or researching something and got interested. I figured out how to find the subreddits that interested me, such as gardening, cooking, Ask Culinary, AskReddit, Ohio, Cleveland, news, world news, movies, and many more. I am not really happy with the ads popping up everywhere now, unlike before, and the bots and brand new accounts who are clearly farming, especially on AskReddit. It is a mess now. I still get a lot of good information or posts that pique my curiosity every day. I do not post much but comment more often when I think I may have something to contribute to someone out there from my humble mind and home. Story 136. To express thoughts somewhat anonymously and follow topics in an organized way while engaging with real people. Story 137. Sometimes I have no friends to talk to about books, television, and hobbies I enjoy. Story 138. I like answering all the questions on this subreddit. Story 139. Because it outperforms Twitter. More users, more humane responses, better conversations, and fewer bots. Story 140. It's helpful. Pornography and some topics are really interesting to read. Story 141. I want to make friends. I have different opinions, but I am unique. Story 142. I like to look at dogs and cats. I also have no actual social life due to illness. Story 143. It has a huge variety of interesting content you cannot find curated in many other places. All in one place. It is like the opposite of Tumblr, yet I use both for the same reasons. Story 144. Practicing English, and I want to learn more about other people and their opinions. Story 145. I get to be myself without fear of judgment that comes with other social media, and enjoy talking about things I love with like-minded people who share a sense of humor. Story 146. Advice, information, interesting stories, and points of view. Story 147. Because the opinions and events of complete strangers are much more interesting than those of friends. Story 148. Quick to use, you find your interests by typing a few keys. Overall, there are very few great communities. Story 149. For finance-related news, I pay no attention to traditional media, so it is the only way I see headlines. Story 150. To find an attractive Reddit user with a sharper sense of sarcasm than mine and discover new pasta recipes. Story 151. Honestly, I wanted to find friends I can relate to because I was lonely and desperate. Story 152. I can be myself. It is not based on your image or avatar, what you read or see. It is based on categories you like and not on what is trending or on a single person. You are not obliged to connect with your contacts. Story 153. So that the Chinese Communist Party can spy on me and is aware of every bodily function and activity of my everyday life. Story 154. On my main account, I find people with shared interests and possibly go viral. On this account, I post mostly the same content, but I am anonymous, so I can respond to people who type unhelpful comments. I like to respond so they get the notification, then delete my comment so they cannot downvote or argue. That is my go-to move. Story 155. I love reading people's secrets and confessions. Very interesting. I love it. Story 156. The way Facebook operates has declined. I like the anonymity of Reddit, and it is good practice for writing. Story 157. I came for the information and different perspectives. I stayed for the sense of community. Story 158. My mind is bored and looking for endless scrolling possibilities to numb the pain. Reddit offers that. Story 159. I like giving my opinion on things I know about or have experienced myself. Story 160. To hear how diverse the world is and how people think differently. Also, to read the stories and experiences people have had. It also makes me realize how sane I truly am in a world full of foolishness. Story 161. Because I have never hung out here on Reddit without learning something I did not know. Story 162. A lot of meme geniuses here, and questions from years ago have been answered here. When you have a dilemma and search for it, there is sometimes a random Reddit user who asked the same question years ago and got their answer. This is also a place for those considered social outcasts, I guess. Story 163. It's just about the only place that feels like democratic conversation anymore. No interest algorithm curates the posts or comments. If I am in a subreddit, I see the posts. It is one of the only places I trust to give me actual feedback or information about people's experiences. And I am bored and there is some funny content on here. Story 164. Here is where all the stories I see in other media come from. I was curious. Also, it is much better than TikTok. Story 165. It has a community for everything, and that is why I love it. Story 166. For interesting perspectives on the world and United States politics. Story 167. Well, I used to use it for interesting perspectives on foreign affairs and United States politics. Story 168. I do not have any other social media accounts. I gave up after MySpace and never looked back. Reddit reminds me of old message boards and is a good place to discuss interests with others anonymously. It also helps with boredom at work. Story 169. But if I type in the name Donald Trump with a criticism, I am shut out. If I remind people that he is a racist, xenophobic, misogynistic, disgusting human being, I will be shut out or relegated to the archives. Reddit becomes nothing more than a dog photo sharing website. Story 170. It reminds me a lot of the old internet, just random communities I can browse for hours on end like I did when I was 12. Outside of Reddit, the internet is not as enjoyable now. Story 171. There is more variety, and I can keep up with news, whether it is world news or news about a television series I like. Story 172. Information and knowledge to improve my life and skill set. Story 173. It's the only place I can get science news followed by humorous videos without opening another window. Story 174. To cope with my loneliness, I have felt really reclusive since the pandemic, but I have been getting a little better. Story 175. It is actually a good place for information. If you mislead or even unintentionally give false information, you will be placed at the bottom below the correct information. Story 176. Comments. The comments on other social media applications such as Facebook are dominated by 50-year-old people who believe everything. The comments here generally provide more information. Story 177. Addiction. I have been using this site for a decade now, and this is the worst it has ever been. There are bots everywhere. The few human users are overly cynical. I am guilty of this as well. The top comment on almost every post is someone going, actually, about the pettiest issues. Downvotes are being used as a disagree button more than ever, making meaningful conversations impossible. The block function is ineffective. Finally, the quality of posts has drastically declined, with many low-quality posts that would not have lasted a day before because everyone would have criticized the original poster for even considering making such a poor post. Story 178. Sometimes, and I mean rarely, you can build interesting conversations about a wide variety of subjects. Sometimes this information is helpful. Sometimes it is just straight-up trash talk. It is a good platform to see what is what. Story 179, because it is more like the old message boards and forums that we used to visit 20 to 25 years ago than other social media platforms today, there is a sense of nostalgia. Story 180. The derailing is very funny. I have left any communities where moderators will not allow it. Story 181. Finding solutions for my problems, escaping reality, and minimizing the use of other social media platforms. Story 182. I wanted to follow a subreddit that my favorite content creator had made. Story 183. I am a random user here. I do not have to share my real name or other details unless I choose to. Additionally, the way Reddit is structured like an old-school bulletin board allows me to chat about topics I am interested in. Story 184. Because I can actually learn things here. It is a good counter to brain rot if you follow the right subreddits. Story 185. Because my Facebook account is full of people I no longer want to interact with, a bit more anonymity is nice. It is entertaining, sometimes hilarious, sometimes educational, sometimes heartwarming. There are the usual trolls, but it is nice to have occasional, casually pleasant interactions with strangers. Story 186. It helps me waste time that I could be spending doing better things. Story 187. It is the closest I can get these days to universal network news, which I still miss dearly even after 20 years or so. Story 188. Because I was too lazy to delete my account back then, but now I have found communities where I belong. Story 189. I often need to do something with my hands, and I need a distraction to focus at times, oddly enough. I find the variety of excellent wisdom down to idiocy to be very interesting. A good way to kill time at work is when I'm not with a client or a patient. The variety of things that can be talked about is remarkable. Other Reddit users often challenge my wellness. It seems like everyone wants to die or something. Story 190. It depends, but mainly it is for being part of communities related to topics I am interested in. Story 191. Because I am lonely, it sometimes makes me feel as if I have friends. Story 192. To ask questions to people more knowledgeable about things I do not know, and vice versa. Story 193. To get human interaction aside from that with my family, I don't get enough of that in real life. Story 194. Hope strangers will engage with me in meaningful conversations. Story 195. A friend introduced me to it 3 years ago, and I created this account. I then stopped using it for a while, but this year I made a comeback, and it is quite addictive now. Story 196. I am too lazy to find part 2s of Reddit stories on TikTok, so I might as well just read the first-hand stories here. Story 197. To leverage my online presence into in real-life connections. Someday it is going to happen, any day now. Story 198. I am learning more about Western culture. It is the only tool that allows me to do so at the moment. Story 199. Basically, you find posts like this. Story 200. I have nothing better to do, and I was looking for friends. Story 201. Reddit memes and Reddit kids are stupid. I come here for the funnies. Story 202. Just another lizard trying to extract information from unsuspecting humans. Story 203. Mental health discussion. Psychology themes. Unpopular opinions. Pornography, no surprise. Disorders such as obsessive-compulsive disorder or narcissistic personality disorder. Story 204. Most of the time, it is because I like hearing people on both sides of the political spectrum. Reddit is very left-leaning, and all the liberals have left other social media sites. Now, you can mainly find them on Reddit and Blue Sky. I think this is a shame because instead of challenging bad ideas with better ideas on the same platform, everyone is just trying to move to places where people agree with them. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.